In 1986, under the dazzling neon lights of Hong Kong, we risked our all and pledged our love.
That night, a sound rang in the narrow back alleys of Mong Kok. Until a gunshot shatters everything we have.
And 50 years have passed. 50 years is a long and cruel time enough to erase a person's entire memory. But your face, engraved like a seal deep in my heart, has never faded. When I returned to the streets of Hong Kong after 50 years as a gray-haired old man, it was very different from what I remembered. The skyscrapers rose as if piercing the clouds. The old back alleys where we walked holding hands were neatly covered with sleek smart buildings. In the despair of not being able to find any trace of you no matter how hard I struggle, I sat down helplessly on the old bench in front of the Star Ferry dock and lowered my head.
It's over now.
The expectation that I would be able to meet you again in this wide, cold world was an old man's useless delusion. Just as I was about to get up and take heavy steps, something hit the tip of my old shoe. What fell on the floor was an old leather notebook. The edges are worn, as if they still retain traces of time. The moment I picked up that faded notebook, an unknown shiver ran through my whole body. I turned the first page of the notebook with trembling hands and froze on the spot as if I had been struck by lightning. There was a photo we took from Victoria Peak 50 years ago. The only black and white photo was carefully laminated and attached. In the faded photo, we were smiling brightly as if we had the whole world. And at the bottom of the photo, a line of sentences written in your round, pretty handwriting struck my eyes.
Summer 1986, burying my eternal love at Victoria Peak. The moment I read that short line,
I felt the huge rock that had been weighing on my heart for the past 50 years crumbling to pieces.
You remembered me too.
You, too, have lived with me without forgetting me even for a single day during these terrible 50 years. You didn't blame me for cowardly running away, leaving you in the hospital as you collapsed after being shot. It's just that I'm incompetent and poor, and you're so foolish that you ran away in fear of ruining your bright future. You covered my cowardly youth completely with love.
I couldn't breathe. The hands holding the notebook were shaking like crazy. Hot tears started pouring down like a waterfall from my old eyes that I thought were dry.
Many people on the street passed by, looking strangely at the crying old man. All I could hear in my ears was the sound of rain falling in the alley of Mong Kok in 1986 and the faint sound of your breathing.
Sorry. I'm sorry. I sat down on the floor and howled like an animal. But then I had to come to my senses.
The fact that this notebook is right here. It was clear proof that you were still alive under the Hong Kong sky, breathing the same air as me. I quickly wiped away my tears and stuffed the notebook deep into my coat pocket, closest to my heart. And he unleashed a superhuman strength that he had never shown in 50 years.
I started running towards the mountain tram platform that goes up to Victoria Peak.
My uncomfortable legs, which depended on a cane, screamed in pain as if they were going to break with every step I took. But my heart had already returned to the way it was 50 years ago, when I was a 17-year-old boy.
The hot and sticky night air of Hong Kong hit my face violently. Colorful neon lights spread dizzyingly across my wet retina. There was only one thought in my head. Wait a moment. It's 50 years too late, but this time I will never leave you alone. I was out of breath and my heart felt like it was going to explode. As the red lights of the peak tram began to come into view, my steps actually got faster. If a miracle is a response to human earnestness,
This desire that is burning inside me right now is so huge and hot that it could split the sky in two. The warmth coming from the notebook feels like you are holding my hand. I swallow back the overflowing tears again. I rushed forward, through the darkness. Breathing heavily, I barely got on the peak tram. As soon as I sat down on the old wooden chair, I felt extremely nervous and tired all at once, and a ringing sound started ringing in my ears. Rumble, rattle. The tram began to climb the steep slope, making a distinctive heavy clanging sound. Outside the window, the night scenery of Hong Kong began to fall slowly and ecstatically. The millions of neon lights embroidered in the darkness were like a huge sea of living, breathing stars. 50 years ago, when I was a poor wonton noodle shop clerk, it was the night view I loved most in the world. One day, one of those countless lights will surely be ours. The bold oath that was whispered in your ear lingered in my ear like an auditory hallucination. However, my life for the past 50 years, when I ran away without being able to keep that promise, may have been glamorous on the outside, but inside was just an empty shell. When I returned home, I struggled to survive. Because I firmly believed that money and success were the only way for a man with nothing to overcome the world's disregard. I woke up at 4 a.m. and worked until 12 midnight, working like an animal for 20 hours a day on the floors of factories and markets. The feeling of helplessness at that moment when you fell bleeding was what turned me into a poisonous demon. Eventually, my small corner store grew into a huge company, and people praised me and called me a successful CEO. But no amount of money or fame could fill my empty heart. Standing alone in the window of the luxurious office of a successful chairman whom people look up to, I thought of your white shirt falling in the rain every night and the red stains spreading. The guilt of not being able to protect you has not let me go even for a single moment in 50 years. Rumbling. The tram stopped and the doors opened. The pouring Hong Kong night breeze caressed my cheeks vigorously. I stood up, gripping my cane tightly. Now we're there. The closer we got to the observatory, the more crowded the crowds became. Lovers taking pictures of each other, travelers cheering at the night view. The desperation to find just one person among so many faces was driving me crazy. What if they diverge? What if I dropped my notebook and already went down the mountain? Every time anxiety tightened around my throat like a poisonous snake, I clutched the notebook in my inner pocket even more tightly. The highest railing of the observatory, the exact spot where we held each other's hands under countless stars 50 years ago. Dozens of people were leaning on the railing, looking down at the night sky of Hong Kong. I looked frantically over people's shoulders and through crevices, looking for traces of her. For a moment, my eyes stopped at the very end of the railing, at the corner where darkness and light intersect. Someone was standing there. A small, slender figure staring at the night sea without moving, as if completely disconnected from the surrounding noise. Silver hair swaying precariously in the wind, and a faded red scarf clearly formed on the retina beyond the tears that obscured the vision. Ah, without realizing it, a sigh like the groan of an animal came out of my mouth. It was definitely her. Just by looking at her back, no, just by that sad and faint air she gives off. My soul recognized her perfectly. My legs were stuck to the floor as if frozen. My heart was beating so hard it felt like it was going to break my ribs and burst out. I was afraid to take even a single step, as if a huge force of gravity was weighing me down. What if all of this is a vain illusion created because I wanted it so desperately? What if the moment you approach her and touch her shoulder, it crumbles to nothing like a sandcastle? Tens of thousands of fears held me back. My longing, which I had been waiting for 50 years, swallowed up that fear in one go. I tightened the hand holding the cane so hard that the blood stopped flowing. I started walking towards her slowly, very slowly. Every time I took a step closer, it felt like 50 years were collapsing by 10 or 20 years. As the distance between her narrows to 5 meters, 3 meters, and 1 meter, her old coat. The faint scent of jasmine in my memory seeped from the hem and wrapped the tip of my nose warmly. The moment I smelled that scent, a mixture of sadness and joy exploded all at once. I stopped right behind her. The distance you can reach if you stretch out your hand. I slowly lifted my trembling right hand into the air, but it hovered in the air without being able to touch her shoulder. Co, Jean. In pain that feels like my throat is tearing. Her name, which had been echoing in my soul for 50 years, was finally spoken. It was a small and shabby voice that was drowned out by the sound of the night wind, but I clearly saw her little shoulders shaking and shaking as if she had been shocked. She began to look back, slowly, as if waking up from a very long dream. A moment of perfect vacuum where my heart stops and all the noise in the world is cut out. The red neon signs of Hong Kong illuminated her graying hair and wrinkled cheeks. The youthful appearance of 50 years ago was no longer visible, as it had been chipped and dented by the winds and waves of time. Those big, transparent eyes looking at me are from 1986. It was exactly the same as the girl who smiled at me in the rain. Her big eyes turned to me, and 50 years of time began to swirl violently in those eyes. It was the moment when our 50-year-long separation finally ended.